Eddie, thanks a lot for taking the time today. Wanted to start with sort of a general market question. The Nikkei in Japan is at a 3-decade low. Nobody thought that was possible 3 decades ago. What are the odds that the US could see a similar slump over that sustained period of time?
I would say it's very, very remote. Even though the US market has had, I would say we've already had our lost decade from March 2000 to March 2009, almost exactly 9 years. The problems Japan faced were much more severe than what we had. Their markets in the late 80s were terribly rigged. I remember Peter Lynch, legendary fund manager at Fidelity Magellan, he said he was at a business meeting in Japan and he was looking over some financial statements, and he said, there's this one figure, I can't figure out what it is, can somebody explain it to me? And they said, oh, it's very simple, that's the share price 1 year from now. So that's how controlled the markets were in Japan. And all of this fell apart, and then they have their version of capitalism, their industrial policy, and the government involved in the stock market. Then they had their zombie banks, which really they were just keeping alive, and they weren't really growing at all, but just pumping money in to keep. And then the real problem that Japan has is demographics. Japan is a very, very old country. It's really almost off the table as far as looking at the statistics. 1 out of 4 people in Japan are over the age of 65. In the United States, which is a country that's getting older, our rate is half that. And this is even as some baby boomers have started to retire. And the problem when you have that is what's key to a country is what they call the dependency ratio. And that's how many people are working or how many people aren't working versus how many people are working. That every person who isn't working, if they're out of a job or even if they're retired, every single day they need to be housed, clothed, and fed. And that's all relied on the people who are working. And in Japan, that balance is really, really getting out of whack. And they just have a nation of retirees, and the fertility rate is plunging. There was one story came out, there was an island in Japan, has about 20,000 people, and their single OBGYN left. No longer works there, and now the whole island doesn't have one because there are so few births. If somebody does need attention from a doctor, they will helicopter them in. This is an island of 20,000 people, and that's how acute the age is. So America is a very, very dynamic society. We even the problems we have, we're always able to overcome in a much more resilient way. So even if we look at what we've gone through lately, which certainly hasn't been good, it's one of the worst markets in 70 years, basically ballpark the S&P 500 is going to earn about $105, $107, give or take, per share for this year. We don't know exactly, it's still June, but it'll be in that ballpark. Going back to the peak earnings year was 2006, and we made, I think it was about $87 per share. So 87 to 106, 105, that's about 20% in 6 years. That's not great growth, but we are growing. And that is what America is. Our system does work, as frustrating and as upsetting as it can be. Companies are out there every day, and they're making profits, and the economy is growing. Certainly not what we'd like, but the idea of a 3-decade slump, I think the odds are extremely low.